CEO of Starfish Media, and won Peabody Awards for her coverage of Hurricane Katrina at CNN, and is also, we should note, a former NBC News anchor. So great to have you here. David Korn back with us, and we're joined also by Michael Allen, Managing Director of Beacon Global Strategies. He worked on national security in the George W. Bush White House. Michael, first, your reaction to everything Michael Waldman just laid out.
Well, I think the devil is in the details. We simply don't have enough information right now to suggest that Trump either, one, committed obstruction of justice, or two, that he knew of anything that some of the people from his campaign may or may not have done with the Russians. My impression here is that Trump is behaving, now this may be a problem, but he's behaving like anybody else would who believes that they're innocent and getting a raw deal.
Really? Like anybody else would?
Yeah, I think he's saying things like, hey, I'm innocent, or you need to lay off here. Now, I don't think that's appropriate for the president. He needs to comport himself in a better way.
Let me put you on that point. Would anybody else in this situation go to the subjects of the investigation, the representatives of a foreign adversarial government, and brief them on the investigation in real time?
I'm not so sure I actually haven't heard that one, Ari, that he's briefed the Russians on an investigation in real time.
The New York Times is reporting, the counter-intel operation is open, and the New York Times is reporting that he's telling them about the investigation, how it's going to be taking the pressure off, and the guy he fired in charge of it is a nut job.
Well, mentioning that off the cuff, as I said, is he should comport himself better, and he should comport himself as the president. But I don't think that constitutes briefing them on the investigation. I don't think he knows the status of the investigation, or else he wouldn't be worried about it.
Spoken like a lawyer, I'm not going to go down the word briefing. Soledad, your thoughts?
Listen, first of all, a lawyer should step in and say, stop tweeting. Seriously, stop tweeting. I think that would be a very good step. What I'm interested in seeing is to really understand what's going to happen to those congressmen who now have to do two things. One, either they're going home and they're holding their own town halls, because really it's that that's going to dictate what they're going to bring back to Washington, D.C. They got to take the temperature of the water back at home before they decide, stay with Trump, decide that you're going to vocally be against Trump. It's really, really critical. And, of course, with the health care debate sizzling under all of that, I think it's a really interesting time to see what their next steps are going to be. And I actually think it is going to be debilitating. I know Michael talked a little bit about how it doesn't have to be debilitating. You see a White House where every time a front page story again goes back into something that they're not interested in having covered, it's a distraction. It is debilitating. It is hugely problematic. And seeing sort of it is what kicks off a tweet storm, which then sort of circles back and has, causes more problems to the president, who I think a good lawyer would tell him, as I started, stop tweeting.
David?
Stop tweeting.
Yeah, now we have to remember that there are multiple investigations. We could spend the rest of the show here delineating them. There's Michael Flynn, there's the Russian, attack on the election, there's possible coordination, and now what we have, and this is solely created by Donald Trump as a possible obstruction of justice case based on, related to his dismissal of James Comey. And the thing is, this is something that White House aides cannot turn away from, because there seems to be an investigation of this. When Rod Rosenstein was asked about this in briefings on Capitol Hill, he said he couldn't talk about it because it was part of the special counsel's purview now, meaning he's looking into this. So anybody who was involved in discussions about what to do about this investigation, how to respond, what to do about James Comey, and we know that involves Sessions, Rod Rosenstein, obviously Reince Priebus, maybe Bannon, other people in the White House. They're all going to be interviewed. And as you said earlier, they better tell, or Michael Waldman said earlier, they better tell the truth. Otherwise, they become under investigation.
They're drawn right into it. We're out of time, but Michael Allen, I want to give you a final word.
Well, look, when I was in President Bush's investigation, or I'm sorry, his White House, there were several investigations. Someone needs to, at the top, a chief of staff, say, everyone needs to tell the truth, everyone needs to cooperate, and everyone needs to take this very, very seriously. You haven't seen that kind of discipline yet, and that's why we're seeing these problems.
Michael Allen, I want to thank you for joining us. Soledad.